Hello, hello. I'm a fan of the Retron 77. This is a console that plays Atari 2600 cartridges, and I actually use this one enough where I should probably look into getting a backup for it. I have a ton of Atari cartridges to play on this, and I love checking out these older 2600 games I just never saw before or managed to play when I was a kid. The system does take cartridges, but it doesn't actually play the game off the cartridge. That's like not how the original Atari 2600 ran, so I thought it was important to notice. It actually copies the ROM from the cartridges temporarily, and it plays them locally. I suppose that's a minor distinction, but it is how the system operates, and if you're into that sort of detail, it's important to know. The Retron 77 overall seems to have a fantastic compatibility with Atari cartridges. It only seems to have problems, I think, with some of those really rare and advanced cartridges. Some of them had extra chips and stuff like that. Past this, the only real problem I've ever had with this is their support for paddle controllers. Paddles just never seem to work that great with the stock system. And if you update to the latest Stella software, which I think most people will probably do, the system gets really awesome, but then the paddle controllers even work less, which is really unfortunate. So here's a bit of Breakout. It's so jittery, you can barely control what's going on. There's no focus for your paddle here. It doesn't resemble anything close to how it worked on the original system. And there also seems to be a dead zone near the right side of the screen. You turn the paddle, and sometimes it barely moves, and then you turn it more, and then it just launches across the screen. No good for gameplay, for sure. There is a special controller they released. It's called the Hyperkin Ranger. It's like an Atari controller, but they put it into a gamepad shape, and it has this paddle controller thing on the side. I guess you'd call it unique, but to be honest, I don't care for using this. I think it's a poor comparison to the paddles, and it just feels weird in my hands. So, yeah, it's just odd. Obviously, I have one, but meh, overall, meh. So, I went bouncing around the atari-age forums looking for any type of modern solution that might help me here, and I actually found one. I found some information I thought was pretty useful, but it was a little confusing, and I needed to do a little more research. The process to get this to work actually is a little weird, so I thought I'd post a video to help clarify for the next person. Long story short, I had to order a device called a 2600 daptor 2. This is an interface that will interface different controllers to a USB port on a computer. It has a range of configuration possibilities for all these different systems, apparently, but my use here is for the Retron 77. I think it costs $25? And it arrived in less than a week, which was nice. This device does work with the newer Stella firmware, which this firmware is a fan-generated software. It's a community type of thing. It's just out there on the internet for you to use if you want it. I don't know if this adapter will work with the stock firmware that comes with the base Retron, but it's not really pertinent to me because I am on the latest and greatest version of Stella. It is a little strange the way you set it up, mostly because you're not going to be using this to plug into the big, obvious controller ports on the front of the Retron 77. You're going to use the back instead. There is one micro USB port that this system uses for power. However, through this configuration, we can use this port for both power and to get this connected. But to do this, you need to hunt down a specific adapter to get it to work. It's called an OTG cable, and it's cheap enough. I got 2 of them for $6 on Amazon. This basically lets you split the cable, and it now allows both a micro USB input, which will be your power, and a regular USB input, which will ultimately be this adapter. So plug the adapter into the power port on the back of the Retron 77, plug your micro USB cable that you are using for power into this adapter, and then you plug a USB cable into this and connect that USB cable to this 2600 daptor 2. Then you just plug in the controller you want, and in this case, I'm using paddle controllers. Then you turn on the system and load a game. That's pretty much all there is to it. Here's Breakout, and this is Breakout before, and now we have Breakout after. Now I got a little bit of kaboom, and this is before the adapter was used, although, honestly, for this game, I was zipping around so fast, I actually did okay for a little while. And then, of course, kaboom after. There's a lot more control. Taking a look at Astro Blast. And then, of course, Super Breakout. I'm super happy to see that the paddles handled so differently through this interface. There seems to no longer be any gaps in the response, and there's no jumping across the screen. I don't know if I'd say this is just as good as using the paddles in the original system, but it might be. It's definitely close. I mean, I can actually play paddle games using this controller, and there are at least 30 or so out there. I got a bunch of them, so this is great. Well, that's all I have today related to paddles on the Retron 77. I just thought it would be good to give this a post because when I went looking, I couldn't really find any videos on this. Maybe it's going to help the next person, so awesome. Well, anyway, thanks for stopping by the channel to take a look, and hope to catch you on another one.